In this video, I will be showing you how to turn this plain rod into a fishing pole. First thing we're going to want to do is measure out the rod and cut off a couple inches off the back of it. This customer wants his rod at 30 inches, so as you can see, I'll move it down here. It starts at 50, ends at 84. We're going to have to cut 3 inches off the back, so I will make a mark at 3 inches, or 4 inches, sorry, 4 inches, and we'll cut that using a hacksaw. So the rod is cut. We want to take our paint marker again, and we have to mark out where we need the guides to go. So on these shorter rods, I like to have 5 guides, and they have to be spaced evenly so that your line spaces evenly going in and out of the rod. So I like to have mark at 3 inches, 3 inches, 3 inches, 3.5, and then 5. And then your grip will be back here. So I'll mark out where the grip has to be, and then where the rest of the guides have to be. Try to do that with one hand here. Three. We need 3.5. Then 5. So next thing, since this is a fiberglass rod, they always come with a little bit of a bend in them from the company where I get them. Since it's not carbon fiber tends to be straighter. Fiberglass settles a little bit. So we want to find where it bends down, and so where the bend goes down, that's where we want to have the guides, right on the bottom of that bend, so that your rod isn't kicking off to one side or the other side. So I already found that, and I made a mark there. So we have to put our guides on the opposite side of this mark. So after you get all of your marks made, figure out where you want your guides, everything like that, you have to decide your color of thread that you want. This customer wants a blue thread with silver accents, but otherwise we can do, there's tons of thread here. Go down here, I have lots of boxes full of thread. Tons of different color choices. So figure out what thread we want. We'll take our alcohol lighter, get a lighter out, light that up. We'll take our hot glue, warm that up a bit, stick it on the eyelet. Not very much, just enough to get it to stick. Warm that up again. And then stick it on your first mark. We'll hot it. And then, I don't know if you'll be able to see this, I could put another video in, but where our first mark is, you don't want the beginning of the guide or the end of the guide to go there. You want right where the eyelet is to line up with that first mark. So as you can see, we got that on there. Our mark for how straight the rod is right here on the other side. Now we are good to start wrapping. So we take our blue thread here. What this little rod here does is keeps tension on it so that your wraps can stay nice and tight. And what I like to do, some people start on this side of the eyelet. I like to start on the eyelet. Gives it a better transition on and off that eyelet so that you don't have blank space. So you want to wrap it around once, hold it, and then take that thread, it's going to be really hard to see this. Take that thread and wrap it over the thread that you just put on there. And that'll hold that on there. Don't worry about getting it super tight this first time. And then you just gotta hand wrap it. Oop. Once you've got it wrapped a good ways, you can take this tag end, snip it off with the scissors. So we're getting off to the end of the eyelet here. Sometimes you gotta go a little bit slower. So once we get that there, we gotta take, where is it? Take a piece of a bit thicker thread. We'll do one more. So now that we got that thicker thread, I'm going to take that, fold that in half, lay that under, wrap over it, probably, I don't know, I like to do a good 1/8 inch at least. Hold that there so it doesn't come loose. Pull some thread out so you got slack. Want to cut maybe 3 inches down, 2 inches down. Run this tag end through that loop that you made. Hold it. Then pull on that. Now pull it through. Once that's through, pull tight on it. Take your scissors here. Sorry if this is hard to see. Snip it off. That's the first wrap. So once you get the first wrap done, you're going to take your burnishing tool, run over it like this. This will get rid of any little imperfections or burrs or anything in that wrap. Make it look really nice. And then you come up to the edge here, go like this, pack it all down. Just like that. Now, you want silver accents on here. So, we're going to take our silver here. Get off a good chunk, probably, I don't know, 18, 20 inches long. Cut that off. So we're just going to do a little silver border on here. So what I like to do, put something on there. You can do a toothpick, a mixing stick like I'm using, pencil, anything really works. You want to run one line back, wrap over it. Kind of depends how thick you want your border. I usually like to do about 5 wraps for the borders. And we're wrapping over that tag end that we put back there. So once I got that, the amount of times wrapped I wanted, I want to take this end, run it through that tag end, pull her a little tight, pull this tight, hold your wrap, slide that out, and then grab both tag ends, pull, kind of keep pulling, don't pull super tight right away or it's going to be really hard to move it. Slowly tighten and slowly work it towards your main wrap there. Get that nice and tight. As you can see, that snapped off, but that's okay. You want to pack that down. Again, use the burnishing tool or you can use your fingernail tool just to pack it down. Take this tag end, snip it off, and the first wrap is done. So pretty much you want to do that and finish the process. Do it the rest of the way on the rod, and I will catch you guys when I'm done wrapping those. Now that you got all the guides on, you want to mark out where your handle is going to be, put your winding check on. The winding check just protects the cork so it doesn't get destroyed. And I marked out where the hook keeper is going to be because we're going to do a fancy little thing with the wrap in there. And then once we get the hook keeper on, we got to put another border here and then the sticker there. So, Jesus. Do the same process of wrapping as we did for the guides, but this time we're going to use two different colors and alternate it. Silver, blue, silver, blue. After that's on, take the hook keeper, a little piece of tape, the hook keeper where you want it. Make sure it's somewhat centered. I like to kick them off to the side a little bit so it's not right under the eyelets. And this we're just going to do blue again, just like the other wrap. So once we got that hook keeper tied on, I want to mark out 2 1/4 inches because the stickers are about 2 inches. And then tie just a little border. So we have a nice clean transition of epoxy once we put that epoxy on that sticker. So again, we'll just do blue and then put a silver border on it like we have on the guides. So get that on. Take the sticker. And then try to get that centered on there as good as possible. Get it stuck good with your finger, and then I like to go over it with the burnishing tool. Just get a nice hard edge on those edges so that we can peel that up without peeling the vinyl off with it. And there it is. So now that we got all the tying done, you want to pick out your grip. This customer wants blue camo grips. So take them. Got to take the reaming tool. Run that through. Makes that hole a little bit bigger so it slides on easier. Slide it on there. Take another winding check. Put that on, and again, these winding checks are just to protect the cork and the foam from damage right by the rod there. Keeps it from chipping away. And it just cleans up the look of the rod. Put another one on here before we stick that butt end on. The same process. Don't have to do it very much with these foam grips. Slide it on there. Slide the winding check down. And there you have a rod. Look down it, make sure all your guides are lined up good. You can always twist these guides a little bit before you put epoxy on them to line them up if one's cocked off to one side. But those look pretty straight and ready to go. So now the next thing to do is put epoxy on the grip so that don't move, and put it on the spinner and put epoxy right on the threads. So now that the rod is done, ready to be epoxied, mixed up the 2-part epoxy, did about half a cc of each. You got to be pretty precise with that, otherwise it will not cure right. Put it together, let it sit for 5 minutes, and then mix it for about 3 minutes. And then just take your paintbrush, put it on there. So once all the epoxy is on, just fill up one of these mixing cups with a little bit of rubbing alcohol again. Put your brush on it, or in it, so it doesn't get ruined. You want to let that sit for 15 minutes or so, let that epoxy set up a little bit, and we'll go back over it with the alcohol torch and take off that excess stuff and smooth it out. And then the reason we use the alcohol torch is because it makes a sootless flame, so it doesn't leave black marks in your epoxy, versus just using a regular lighter. It smokes like that. That does not smoke. So now that this is all sat for a little bit, we can take our alcohol candle, just run it under there, don't hold it, just go back and forth on it. You'll see a little drip come down, pull that off, just kind of spread it to the tip. That gets rid of a lot of that excess epoxy, cleans it up a lot. And just continue that process for all the pieces that you epoxied. Once that is all cleaned up and you're happy with the look of it, go back over a couple of them sometimes if you need to, but once you're happy with it, just let it sit, and it has to sit on the spinner for about 5.5 to 6 hours in order for this epoxy to dry. And the reason it has to be on the spinner is so that you don't get any drips, and it evenly keeps that epoxy even all along the whole circumference of the rod. Now that the rod is done on the dryer and the epoxy is dry to the touch, we need to mix up a 2-part epoxy for gluing the handle on. So I mixed that up already. Only got one hand to do this, so I'm going to try to set it up where you guys can see it, but I don't know how good it's going to work. But I'll kind of show you the process here. So this, hopefully you can kind of see it here, but all you really got to do, mix up that epoxy. This doesn't have to be as precise as the epoxy for the threads, but just kind of smear it on there. Don't need a whole lot. Stuff will, it expands and spreads around when you slide that handle on there. Just slide it on there so there's a good amount. Slide your handle up. Press it up against that winding check. Once that's on there, take another tiny little dab. That's even a little bit too much. You want to put it on the back here. Take your other winding check, slide it up, push it tight, and then do the same thing for the butt grip. Again, doesn't need to be very much at all. Put that on there. slide it on, push it tight, slide your winding check down, and once you got your grips where you want them to be, got your winding checks where you want them to be, you can take a paper towel and just go around the edge of that winding check, clear up that epoxy so that you have no excess. Just do that on all of them. Now the handle's all glued on, epoxy's all dry, and that is how you build a fishing pole.